Hello guys, welcome to the Premier League. I'm Blaze, and we are going to be bringing you guys today a game between 3D Clan and paiN Gaming. These are our two qualifying teams that got into it through either the European Premier League qualifier or the NA Dota one. So we see these two teams clashing. Russia versus Brazil. This is going to be really interesting here. These two teams matching up, and I'd just like to formally thank you guys for joining in on this cast here, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the match that we have coming up for you. So we're going to start with the European server one, and we're going to bounce back and forth. I mean, it's going to be difficult for ping issues just with that global distance, but hopefully we'll make it work out one way or another. But we have just loaded on into the game. I'm going to get a call from Rainmaker in a second, and from there we will jump on in. But I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you guys will enjoy.
Radiant team ban.
So, to start things off, again, paiN Gaming is a Brazilian team, starting off with King RD on the draft here. We have them going for the Undying ban alongside the Batrider, just trying to start things off. It does leave a lot of great options in the pool as far as supportive options, whether it's going to be like the Guardian Wisp or the Nyx Assassin, even like a Darkseer Magnus could be great initiators here, but we'll have to see what these two teams come up with as Dread drafts up for the Dire.
5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see both of these teams playing. They're kind of the dark horses of the tournament, and their performance today, I think, will be a good measure of how well they're going to be playing for the rest. And Darkseer does slip through. I'm wondering if paiN is going to go and try to snap that up right here.
Very powerful offlaner, a lot of great AoE initiation. I definitely think it's something that's on their mind, but if they want to go for a global presence type thing, that is also a very good option if they want to go for the Wisp. But one thing to note is...
Oh, the Wisp. Oh, man, I didn't even realize the Wisp was unbanned.
Yeah, not at all. I mean,
wow.
Only so
That's
many
crazy.
options to go through, but with the Undying taking off the board, it's definitely a limiting factor there. So that could be a very powerful option too. But honestly, there are some different metas where in different regions they completely ignore that hero and don't care one little bit about him. So I'm curious to see specifically if paiN Gaming is one of those teams that prioritizes that, or if they want to go for something like that Darkseer, like you were mentioning.
Yeah, I think the thing with paiN is even if they don't like running Wisp particularly, I do not think you can give it to 3D. They have shown they're quite competent with that hero, and they're willing to play very aggressively with some sort of Seeker Wisp lineup. If paiN doesn't pick it here, I think they better have something prepared, because Dread is going to punish them quite strongly.
Absolutely. But they do have that first pick advantage, so they're going to be able to make sure that they can build their team the way they want to, and whether that means counterpicking and selecting something that you don't want the enemy to have, or if it means that you're just going to have to make sure that you can build your lineup and strengthen your own lanes. They're going to start off with the Shadow Demon, which is a great hero as far as making sure your tri-lane is going to work out very effectively. You can go for Disruption to set up maybe a powerful stun from a Lina or a Leshrac, even a Twin-Headed Dragon. But beyond that, that is giving a couple of really wide pool options into these next second and third picks, starting with the Darkseer, and I'm curious to see what they have next up their sleeve.
Yeah, I think now that 3D's in a pretty interesting position, because they definitely were baiting out a Wisp pick perhaps, but picking up the Darkseer immediately, that means they might not actually go for the Wisp at all. Maybe they'll pick up a Magnus and just go for some very heavy AoE kind of lineup. They have shown that they're very comfortable going to the super late game and playing for these mid-game teamfights, and Rubik, I feel that Rubik and Shadow Demon, they're very strong heroes, and you often see them in the first 6 picks, but I don't know if you need to get them quite this early.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing I've mentioned this before, but I really like the idea of drafting a Rubik really early on, just to kind of shut down the hopes and ambitions of the enemy in their drafting. They don't want to go for a giant Magnus Enigma type thing, because it's so very effective and easy to spell steal out those big powerful wombo combo ultimates and throw them right in the other direction. So if you're going up against a Rubik, you're much less likely to pick some of those powerhouse big all chips in on one big cooldown type hero. So that is one thing where it's a limiting factor, whereas he will also provide a lot of presence, whether in the supportive lane or in some cases, rarely, but in some cases in the mid.
Yeah, I think that, mid Rubik is one of those undervalued heroes these days, but the problem is that since he has 285 move speed, he can get contested very heavily by heroes like Queen of paiN that can always get every single rune. Lifestealer and Queen of paiN being picked up here gives them a lot of mid-game power. The Queen of paiN, as soon as she gets to about level 8, just leveling up that Blink, having max level of Scream and that ultimate, she can burst down pretty much any squishy support / carry style hero. While Lifestealer, if he goes and grabs a fast armlet, perhaps going for a Midas first, that means around 14 to 16 minutes, he can start shredding the enemy. Darkseer is going to be very effective against that, but that Surge can get purged off. However, that requires that the Shadow Demon does get levels, and I think when you have a Queen of paiN, that completely eliminates a small chance of a mid Shadow Demon.
Essentially, yeah, and they actually pick up the AM for Nexus. A little bit counterpicked in the sense that Shadow Demon is great when you disrupt that AM if he builds Mana Break early, but Nexus, knowing this, will probably just leave it at rank 1 early on so that he doesn't find himself completely out of mana and will still be able to blink on out. But Nexus has shown that he is one of those carry players that can just farm very, very aggressively. He can go in and take last hits. You take your eye off of him for a couple minutes and suddenly he's just exponentially increased his last hit value even while under pressure. So that's a really great trait for a carry player, but he also shows that he loves to play very aggressively. Up against heroes like Queen of paiN, if he can get enough mana breaks on in to burn her down where she can't blink away, that's just one nuclear mana bomb waiting to happen with his ultimate. So that is really a great pickup for him, and I'm curious to see if he's going to build more towards that split push anti-mage with the Battle Fury or just go for combat readiness. Generally speaking, the Battle Fury is almost a must have in a lot of pro players' minds, though.
Yeah, I think this is going to have to be a Battle Fury game because they do not want to contest the Lifestealer too early on. And more than that, I just don't think that there's too many other items that are that efficient on Anti-Mage. The Battle Fury, just the plus stats and that extra damage synergizes so well with his low base stack time that he is able to shred creep waves, and in the late game, that cleave is super, super relevant. So I think we will definitely be seeing an Anti-Mage with a Battle Fury. Looking at the bans, I really like this, the Magnus and Beastmaster ban coming out from paiN Gaming. Those are two heroes, their ultimates go straight through BKB, and they're great at locking down heroes like the Queen of paiN as well. There's a lot of escapability on paiN's lineup right now, but you know, when Beastmaster just comes up and yells at you, you're just not getting away.
Very true, very true. Along with that, we see the Faceless Void and Guardian Wisp being banned out from 3D Clan. They're pretty much making sure that they don't have to worry about an extra carry on board. They thought that if the Lifestealer was playing in an aggressive tri lane maybe, and the Faceless Void is finding farm elsewhere, it's just something that they didn't want to have to deal with. But that's just going to be taken out 100%, and along with that, the Guardian Wisp, which is really synergetic with heroes like Lifestealer and Queen of paiN, whether giving the overcharged attack speed to Lifestealer to let him chomp away with that feast, or the Queen of paiN can actually blink in aggressively past somebody to get that tether stun guaranteed and lock down somebody pretty hardcore. So a lot of good bans coming on through, along with the Nature's Prophet. Just don't want to have to deal with global presence because AM does want to go for that split push. He wants to be all across the map, and if you have a Wisp or a Nature's Prophet that can gank him and he feels at risk at any point in time, then that's not going to be the style he wants to play. So taking those off the board is the right choice, but a couple interesting picks. Lone Druid and Leshrac, how do you feel about those?
Well, I think if once you have a Lone Druid, that commits them to a lot of melee heroes, and Leshrac's actually fabulous. Once he gets that Split Earth leveled up, it's a very large AoE stun, and it's very easy to land on Lone Druid and a Bear, or perhaps a Lifestealer when he's out of rage, or even just forcing out that rage. However, Lone Druid will give them even more mid-game presence, and they're kind of relying on that at this point. Even their support hero, Jakiro, is very, very good at pushing towers. That Liquid Fire cannot be underestimated, and the amount of damage he can dish out around the time he hits level 11 is tremendous. That Macro Pyre shreds heroes like this Rubik and like this Leshrac. But I think that if 3D is able to get something a little bit more late game oriented with their last pick, because they already have the Darkseer and they have the Anti-Mage, Leshrac and Rubik scale fantastically into the late game, and especially when you consider Rubik has a lot of great spells to steal here. If they just go and get something else that will kind of help them hold the line and kind of a mid-hero that can dominate the mid-game, I think they'll be in a very strong position. This might even be a game where we could see something perhaps like a Night Stalker.
Yeah, I suppose so. If they can put out the aggression they want, Sharfake still kind of looking for that mid-hero option. We see him play so aggressively, and that's why I think a little bit of respect came out with that ban from the Storm Spirit. But all in all, I think that, yeah, they want to put out some aggression, put out some pressure, because generally speaking, paiN Gaming have actually some pretty solid, stable lines. With the Shadow Demon Disruption to set up the Jakiro's Ice Path, ping shouldn't be a major factor there. They should be able to guarantee some stuns and guarantee some lockdown that they can use to really, really force pressure on presumably the Darkseer, who would be offlaning down on bottom.
I think this actually might be a solo safe lane Lone Druid, looking at the lanes right now. And then they can aggressively tri-lane the Lifestealer. I think Lifestealer doesn't need the farm quite as badly as Lone Druid, and if Lone Druid is able to pick up a fast Rad, for example, it's going to be very difficult for Leshrac and Rubik to come in close enough to use their abilities. Even with Darkseer, he will end up tanking a lot of damage. He does not want to. Taking their time with the last pick here, or perhaps it's just a bit of mind games, but it's going to be Puck. There you go, a nice aggressive support, a nice aggressive mid lane hero. This is a hero that can, take control of the game in the early game, and then be even better at Night Stalker in the late game. This Dream Coil is such a good setup spell, and the fact that it's almost impossible to kill a Puck with paiN's lineup means that he's going to have a great time. I believe that's going to be Sharfik on the Puck.
Yeah, most definitely. So
Yep.
that's going to be him picking it up and trying to play very, very actively, get that bottle early, whether ganking around or just using good control. The best part about this hero is when team fights come into play. Getting a vacuum waning rift and following it up with a dream coil means that not only are you silenced up and having a very difficult time team fighting in the middle of that engagement, you're not going to be able to run away from it nearly as effectively either. They have tons of chase. They can follow up with Anti-Mage blinking on through. They can have the dream coil and follow that up with a Split Earth. They can lock you down pretty hard, and it's going to be very difficult to disengage from something that suddenly turns unfavorable when a puck, especially once he gets that blink dagger, can spontaneously jump on into. So that'll be pretty interesting there, but it looks like you were right about their decision to go for the aggressive. It's going to be Pada on the Lifestealer, Grent XD on the Shadow Demon, and Billy Razor on the Jakiro up top there. And we also have, along with that, the Queen of paiN making her way towards mid. That's King RD, their mid player, and along with that, Fuga Razor currently, I guess, blocking up for the Queen of paiN just in case he needs to.
Yeah, one interesting thing here is that Nexus is going to have a really rough time, but unless paiN gets something done with their tri-lane, I think they're going to be in a pretty rough position. Because we've seen, especially when Quark picks up that puck, if there are under-leveled supports on the map, puck can very easily burst them down, and especially with Shadow Demon, he does not have the best strength game in the game, only sitting at 1.9 strength per level. Oh, great deny coming out from Dread. Between just the Rubik Fade Bolt and the Puck's Orb, they can take them down very easily. The amount of nuke damage on the dire supports rather is actually super high. Lightning Storm, Edict, Split Earth, Fade Bolt, and then even Ion Shell. It's going to be very difficult for the Radiant supports to really do anything here.
Yep.
Nexus is going to get shut down. He's already forced into that level 1 blink as well. I think that's a very smart decision here. But we've seen Nexus in worse positions, and he is able to go and find farm somewhere, so I don't know how badly this is going to go for the Dire team. It's really going to come down to play, as it generally does in Dota.
Yeah, most definitely. So Nexus is pretty survivable with the Poor Man's Shield and that rank 1 blink, as you mentioned, but...
Oh, wow, it's on a tri-lane. They also Dread tanked a lot of damage on the bot lane.
Yeah, actually, they're diving on past. They have the Iron Shell available to creep skip with that Stout Shield, so Dread is just going to help him here, bring down the creep wave, and I guess they're just kind of deciding, okay, well, Anti-Mage can get some solo experience, and then turn that into farm later on, but we want to get a tower kill early, and they're going to be able to bring down that tier 1 at relatively good pace compared to King RD, who just cannot tank up on the bottom lane here. They would much prefer that Lone Druid with the Stout Shield on the Bear to be able to go down on the bottom. I think they're going to have to make that transition very, very shortly if they're going to want to keep that tower.
Yeah, and the other thing is, while they're shutting down Puck, it's not tremendous. He's still sitting at 5 creeps, and while that's going to get harder and harder as the Bear levels up, at some point Puck can just go and start bottle crowing and spamming the wave down with Illusory Orb. You're not going to be able to deny experience at all, and you're ceding Puck complete rune control. I don't understand this decision from paiN. I'm sure they have used this in practice. This isn't something you just kind of burst out in a pro game the first time, but I really don't know where it's going to lead them.
Most definitely. So King RD is still pretty cool under pressure for the time being, just going up against the creeps here. One thing to mention is he still always has that blink available, so that will make sure that he can stay active and not have to worry about Iron Shell dives as much, blinking on into trees, and actually doing a lot of damage to Dread with the creeps tanking up here. King RD is bringing him down very slowly. Fade Bolt negating a lot of damage. They get the stun coming on through, and they get the first blood. Nice damage coming on through. Now Iron Shell up. Can he get away? Serva has that surge, but it's on cooldown, and he's going to get burned down gradually by the Jakiro. Double kill coming on through. That is really, really nice for them. 1 for each, I guess. Jakiro and Queen of paiN each picking up a kill, but 2 for 0 on that. Just really, really punishing that aggressive position there where they were pretty much just opting to take all that damage extra from the creeps.
Yeah, that was actually really, really rough because they decided to play aggressively, and with that Jakiro rotation, and Jakiro walked there. That was homeward bound levels of roaming, and they definitely paid off. They're in a really rough spot now. They gave the Queen of paiN experience that she had no right getting in farm. That even actually no, she's still just sitting at 5 and 6, but it's something that she should have been completely shut down. The tower should have been close to going down by now, but just playing a little bit too aggressively. And I think that's one of 3D's failings is when they're going and playing, they can just generally take over a game with their kind of aggressive lineups, but when that doesn't work, we see them really, really struggle. They'd like to go and get an advantage just by completely putting their enemies out of their comfort zone, and whenever their enemies respond appropriately, it becomes a much harder game for them. They can go and win it in the late game, but they generally prefer not to.
Yeah, that's very true. In the meantime, we do see Solo doing a lot of really good pulling action, starting with the easy camp and getting a lot of good experience. Looks like there's a bit of harassment on server down there, but with the Surge, he'll be perfectly fine. And Dread is flanking up on the mid lane, continually putting pressure out there. They don't really know what's forthcoming, but if Fuga Razor just steps a little bit too far in the river, I'm sure Dread will try to take action. The problem here is that Sharfik doesn't have a full mana pool right now. Has the regen rune to make sure that's going to happen, but he doesn't want to use it just yet. So in the meantime, Dread is just kind of wasting time here, sitting and continuously dropping down his experience per minute, now as low as 68, and that's going to continue to get worse. But it does set them up so that Nexus can pretty much just go toe-to-toe with the Lifestealer and actually pick up on his farm a little bit. You're seeing actually them go neck and neck at 14 each. And Dread popping off that telekinesis onto Fuga Razor, but he's just going to take a ton of tower hits instead. There is no entangle, but there's still a lot of damage from the bear. And Dread, oh my gosh, Sharfik almost walked in behind it, but... yeah,
oh no, what's
Dread
doing?
is in such a very, very bad spot. Rubik going to take a lot of damage here, but there is not enough follow-up. The bear is in pursuit, has movement speed distance, and gets the kill. So that's just really, really sloppy play in my mindset. They do pop off the illusory orb, but from there, not too much to talk about.
Yeah, in the meantime, Queen of Pain is able to grab that haste rune. I don't think she'll be able to make anything of it because that Darkseer is just a little bit too far away now. Looking at the Queen of Pain's build, she's going for that max screen build. This means that she wasn't too worried about the lane, actually. Wasn't forced to get that level 2 in Shadow Strike. And that at 7, this means that her burst damage is going to be through the roof. She's probably going to actually be picking up that Sonic Wave at 6, and perhaps we'll even see her roam to that top lane, because as well as they've been doing in every other lane, they haven't been shutting this anti-mage down. He's already at level 4. 15 last hits is not terrible when you consider the heroes he's going up against. And on top of that, the Leshrac has been getting pretty decent experience and level and farm. They're both smoked up now, and looks like they're going to try to make a go on the Shadow Demon. I don't think they can go and take down the Nyx at this time.
Yeah, so they'll have to put some focus on through their telekinesis into Split Earth is what they're looking for here. But unfortunately, yeah, it's just not going to happen with the timing of it. Moving on through, paiN reacts pretty appropriately, and he's going to be able to fall back from there. But we notice that Nexus isn't skilling that mana break whatsoever. That's exactly what he needs to do, given the fact that he is up against that disruption coming out from Grent. And yeah, Nexus is just going to be able to farm with the Ring of Health. It could technically turn that into a Vanguard, but I think it's mostly going to be that Battle Fury like we've talked about multiple times over, because the Poor Man's Shield itself gives a lot of effective HP, and from there he really just wants to be able to push out waves. Now we do see Disruption on top of Open Wound, stacking that up a bit, but they do get the Ice Path on out. Dread taking a lot of damage, will take a fall here. Now Nexus going on in, wants to try to clean something up, but he doesn't have that much right click himself, so Peta in pursuit of him. Nexus not going to blink on over, and so they're all just going to get kind of split up and just have to fall back from here.
Yeah, again, this is just really... their 3D's putting themselves in a difficult position. Trying to go for these picks, when they don't work out, they need to back out immediately. They cannot go on an actual engagement against paiN's lineup, and paiN has shown a willingness to go and roam their heroes where they need to be. So you can't expect that, you know, after you go in for a gank against paiN, that they're still not going to have the Jakiro there after, you know,
Disruption on to Anti-Mage. They're going to try to go for it with his Ice Path. He can't blink out just yet. A lot of damage coming on through. Can they follow up with the Open Wounds? No. It's pretty much just pure harassment to try to put damage on into this tower. Nexus afraid to go into aggro the creep wave, but he is going to go for it. There's the Open Wounds. 4 seconds left on the blink cooldown. There's a lot of damage coming on through. They get the Ice Path on the Soul Catcher. He's going to drop. A pickoff on the Anti-Mage this early is immense, and they're not going to be able to do too much for the tower for that reason, but it's well worth it for that AM pickoff.
Yeah, I don't know what Solo was doing backing up there. He really needed to be there to kind of just threaten them with it. And also his build is very effective for that. Leveling up Lightning Storm and Split Earth, it means there's a lot. He wouldn't have quite enough for both the spells, but I think he could have definitely stunned out the Shadow Demon as he approached. Just a little bit of lack of communication seeming from coming out from 3D's lineup. They're really feeling the pressure that paiN's putting on. Hopefully they can go and keep it together, because I do think they have a very good chance. Nexus hasn't been farming that poorly, and once he gets up his Battle Fury, that means he can split push really effectively. Also, Fate Bolt, Illusory Orb, and the Leshrac's Lightning Storm, they're very good at counter pushing. So they just need to go and ride out the next 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then I think they're going to be in a position where they can really take this game to the late game, and that's when they will, you know, shine.
Absolutely. But in the meantime, King RD is getting tons of experience here. You mentioned he went for the AoE build. He really got catapulted up to the level 4 with that for those first 2 kills. So as far as laning, traditional laning matchups, he really didn't have to worry about that Shadow Strike. Was more focused on burning down the creep waves whenever Darkseer skipped, and from there was able to go for a very aggressive team fight oriented build. So whenever King RD starts transitioning in, right now on the core is just a bottle that's been crowed back and forth a couple times over, and they're going to be looking to put a lot of pressure in big team fights here. So I think that that's going to put them in a really good spot because Darkseer doesn't even have a single rank in Vacuum just yet, only level 5, and having to use the Surge to make sure he doesn't get dropped by the Queen of Pain. So in general, actually Puck coming on in with the Dream Coil, King RD going aggressive and going to pay for it with his life. Just really nice movement. Transition from Sharfik, knew that the Queen of Pain would go aggressive on Serva the second he saw him, and that really cost him.
Yeah. So I think that, this is what Sharfik needs to do. He needs to put some pressure on the map so the enemies can't just run roughshod over the rest of his lanes. Right now, he's basically he can't contest the Lone Druid in lane. There's too much of a damage differential, and Lone Druid doesn't really care. He's just, every time Puck moves, he's going to just go on and push the tower. But I think Sharfik's going to have to let that happen. Not let the tower fall, of course, but allow some damage to go on it. Just spam out Illusory Orb as much as you can, and try to get some ganks going. Because if you look at the positioning of paiN's lineup, those are very, very aggressively placed supports. I don't know if they should be allowed to get away with that.
Now Solo coming on in, trying to actually put up this River War. We might pay for it. Here comes the Soul Catcher, and too much damage coming on through. He's going to get dropped really quickly. He does get the Split Earth onto Shadow Demon, but he's just going to walk away from there, and that is just, an Observer Ward for your support's life. I don't really feel that's going to be worth it. A little bit of extreme warding going on through. Could have helped to put some pressure out, but it really instead just turned things around, more so in favor of paiN, as we see them move in towards a 2,500 gold advantage, and almost that as far as experience.
Yeah, it's just going to get harder and harder from here, because if you look at this Lifestealer, he's just about finished drums, and this means that they are not looking to let up the pressure. This is not going to be a Midas Lifestealer. Damage going in, and with this Demonic Purge, Serva's going to get dropped down. Nice just transition. It was kind of essentially a pick-off here, but another time that Serva completely underestimates, and this Observer Ward not doing enough, because you look at Dire's vision, they had no idea of the flank coming in from Grant, and using that Demonic Purge on the Surge will make sure that they can net that kill 100%. So committing 2 ultis, but yet another very solid kill. And since Darkseer is definitely one of their core heroes, shutting him down early on, again, no Vacuum means no team fight. Yep. And if you look at the enemies, I don't think that there's going to be too much that Puck can do at this point. The Queen of Pain's a little bit too high level. It looks like she's just going to go tank up. I wouldn't even be surprised to see an item like an Orchid coming out that's going to be very good against every hero on the Dire lineup. And if she's able to just blink away, if that silence isn't immediate, if Puck doesn't have a blink dagger, I don't think she can be ganked. On the top lane, Nags can rage out. The supports have got into an HP pool. Very smart itemization, by the way. Urn of Shadows being picked up on the Shadow Demon, and the fact that Jakiro is just naturally tanky means that they can't be bursted down. More than that, the lanes have not fed, but they've just gotten picked off so many times that it's going to be very difficult for Sharfik to have the impact he wants to, and that means it's going to be not much room for Nexus to farm. It's very, very difficult position for 3D right now.
Yeah, the two individuals to look to on 3D Clan's lineup to try to turn things around a bit are Sharfik, sitting at level 9. He is the best as far as experience goes. And then, of course, Anti-Mage Nexus trying to get that Battle Fury as fast as possible to be really relevant, being able to burn down neutrals or creep waves very rapidly to put pressure out on different lanes here. But Pada has been generally staying on top of things as far as his own farm goes, and it's been making the Anti-Mage fight for every little bit scrap of farm he can get. So it's been working out in general, and we do see a Midas on the Lone Druid as well, so making sure that he can stay on top as far as experience and gold, and now he can do whatever he needs to. In an empty lane, he can go to push down a tower. Now Sharfik getting flanked up and in a really bad position here. They don't get the Entangle right off the bat, but with this disruption, the Ice Path, they'll probably get it here. Soulcatcher, nice phase shift, but it's not long enough. Orb goes on through. Can they get the jaunt? They do. On to 170 life, bottling on through. They get another, actually Demonic Purge, which should be enough because he already popped the phase shift. He is gonna 1 HP.
Oh my
1 HP on Sharfik.
Well, that was planned. Definitely.
I gotta feel so bad for paiN right here.
I know, right?
Oh, and in the meantime,
I don't feel that bad.
Yeah.
No, I take it back. They're doing okay.
Yeah,
Somehow
I
I think they'll survive.
Sure. Getting pulled in, Grant on low life, the Fable doing a lot of damage, but I'm not sure if it's enough. With the magic stick, no, it's not enough. He does take the last auto attack and he will get dropped down. That big damage coming in from King RD, Solo on low life with that Entangle, will get dropped, but with this stun and the, I forgot it for a second, Demonic, wow, I fail. It is, yeah, the Diabolic Edict going on through. That does a lot of damage, but there were a lot of creeps to tank it up, so not a big deal. And they're just going to force down on this tower.
In the meantime, Sharfik has already used his jaunt. He phases out, but I don't think he's going to be able to get out of here. Yeah, that was very aggressive play from him. I don't know why he thought he could be there. Yeah. It's just showing that they are willing to go and push as a team. They're always willing to back each other up, and this is something that 3D is going to have to respect. They're not playing against. They can't get pickoffs here. The paiN has all their outer tier towers up. They're willing to teleport, and while this is giving Nexus room to farm, it's just making his overall job a little bit more difficult when they give away kills like this.
Absolutely. Now Pata's just like, okay, well, I'll come on up here. I have plenty of attack speed, attack damage to work with. He can pretty much, as long as he has the creep wave at his advantage, just go and right-click him on down, and he might lose a little bit in, actually not in terms of mana, so he'll be able to trade very effectively there with Feast, and it's just continuing to make sure that they have this nice advantage going on into it. We do see Pata kind of go into maybe like a little bit of an FNC build with the phase and drums, not so much on the Vlad presumably, but they want to keep the pressure, they want to make sure that Lifestealer can close the distance, and that's the kind of build to do it. Another thing I want to highlight on is the pickup of the Leshrac is so uncommon these days. For some reason, he's kind of just fallen out of favor in the trends. Generally speaking, being replaced entirely by Lina, just because of her nice little burst, and coinciding that with Shadow Demon is very popularized. But Leshrac does have a lot of potential, and Diabolic Deity can, of course, push down towers aggressively, but not when you're taking too much damage. Dreamcoil does come on through. They have the Waning Rift, and she's going to get silenced up. A lot of damage coming on through, and King RD will take a fall. TP comes on through from Pata, but the TP comes on out, and Sharfik will be able to walk away from this as well. Actually popped off his orb. That's a huge mistake. Why? Okay, he's jaunting southwest, but that's still a very bad spot to be in. Can they get the Demonic Purge in range? Will he pop it? He does. On top of Phase Shift. The orb is back up. Tries to Waning Rift and turn it around, but he gets dropped down beforehand, and that is just too much damage coming on through. And I can't imagine why he thought that vector of Illusory Orb would have been beneficial for his situation.
Yeah, that was slightly interesting play there. I don't know. Like, I think he just thought that he wanted to get some more damage and help out the his Leshrac, perhaps, you know, just provide a little bit more cover fire, and didn't see the TP. Sometimes you can go and make that mistake, and Puck's one of those heroes where you can't afford to make mistakes, because your really only strong suit is your survivability top lane.
He invests into his own creep, actually, going to get burned down by the bear itself, but he is back at full life, and now he has reinforcements coming on through. Bottom lane, tier 1 is denied, and Fuga Rays are going to have to fall back from the pursuit of Dread and Serva. It does look like the Darkseer is going for a mechanism, helps their team fight substantially, but it's kind of... I don't know if it's too late. There's just so much damage have already gone through. Now coming in, King RD, tons of damage with that Fade Bolt going on through, not doing enough. So now King RD just needs one more Blink Scream to finish the job. TP coming out from solo, but Dread is still in a really bad spot and will be finished off right here. Nice pick off coming out of King RD, and they'll take this tower intact as well.
Yep. Also, looking at Queen of Pain's items, she's going straight for that Hex, not for the Orchid. Doesn't feel that she needs the additional attack speed, just wants to get a more reliable disable and have a slightly larger mana pool to work with as well. It's also just another good item to get those single target pickups that they desperately need to get on the Puck and the anti-mage. Looking at Puck, this Puck is sitting at level 10. If you compare that to even the Queen of Pain is level 12 now. Sharfik is having a really rough game, and he's one of those players that can completely dominate the mid game. Very aggressive, very, you know, great. Has a lot of flair as well, which I think is one of the most, you know, cool aspects in the still mid players. He definitely fills the role very well, but just not his game today.
Most definitely, most definitely. Just been really having a hard time. He's did okay in his lane itself, but when he transitioned in for ganks, generally speaking, they've been coming out unfavorably, with the exception of surviving on 1 HP at one point in time through the usage of Bottle of Magic Wand. But beyond that, yeah, it's not been his day so far. He really wants to play super aggressive, and he's gotten a couple pickoffs on the Queen of Pain, but sitting at 2-2 and 0, that's not his style of KDA. He loves to be amplifying that like 3 times over as far as the kills and assist departments go. In the meantime, we do see an Armlet finished up on Pata Razor, or sorry, just they're sponsored by Razor, right? Or is it?
Excuse me?
I'm trying to remember as far as Pain's lineup here. They have Razor. They are sponsored by Razor, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna call him Pata. But from that point on, he does have a ton of damage coming on through with Armlet, and just a big amount of temporary strength to come on through. And look at this, they can't even possibly try to defend their tower. A lot of damage coming into Sharfik right off the bat through that open wounds. He does have his Orb and Jaunt, so he's going to pop that off and be able to escape, but Dread having to rage on out just to survive away from that entangle. And Tier 1 forfeit, they're just walking away. They can't hope to defend these things. All they have is long-range harassment. With the Lightning build of Leshrac, with the Orb, they can do some counter-push, but they can't hope to actually contest a full frontal assault.
Yeah, but look at what's on that courier. It's going to be Nexus time. The Battle Fury is up. This isn't even the worst timing I've seen, considering the lane he was in. He had a very rough time. This just Nexus showing that, you know, he can find farm when he needs to. And with this, that means that they're going to have to deal with the counter push. Also, if you look at his build, he's gone not even for the 1-1-1. He's gone for the 0. Like, he basically completely skipped mana break, and he has a ton of stats to work with, which means it's going to be he does a lot of damage to towers, and he'll be able to go and clear the jungle very quickly. With this kind of, if he keeps up a pretty reasonable rate of farm, we can be looking at something like a Manta style in the next maybe 7-8 minutes, and that's going to be their cue to fight. And wow, the Queen of Pain just decided to walk in. If he had Mana Break had been leveled up, that actually might have been a position where he could have avoided for the kill.
Very true. Void being rank 2 and her having such an extensive mana pool with that Ultimate Orb and Treads, I mean, that is a position where she could have really had a rough time of things. But again, no mana breakup because of the Shadow Demon, and he's happy to just play auto attack battle and bring down the tower before blinking on away. So nice transition there. Look at the warding here. We do see actually the Radiant putting out a couple wards not only for the top room but also aggressive in the jungle. We're seeing that capitalize on right here as King RD moves in for a kill, but just stalking up before the Darkseer will just surge on away. In the meantime, though, Dire does have a decent ward in this position to cover up this main entrance, which they're not smoking on into, so they have full understanding of what's coming their way, and Server will just kind of head for the hills from here. And now they're going to sentry it out and negate what I was just talking about.
Yep, just good awareness from paiN. They knew what was up. They saw that the Darkseer just moved away from their invisible Queen of Pain, and that was kind of a giveaway. But looks like Queen of Pain is just going to get her revenge, just go kill Dread on the mid
He has Rage, so he will just TP on away, and not too much coming on through. The Shadow Demon almost getting off that disruption, but not going to get it on through. So, and it's just to no avail. They're kind of scrambling to try to pick up a kill, and a lot of movement, but not a lot of results. So that is giving time for Nexus to continuously farm, pushing down on this wave, and like you were saying, he is moving up pretty quickly. He was very down and out in the laning phase. I mean, he was literally 1 versus 3 for a couple minutes, and then 2 versus 3. He just never really came out to just, you know, have an uncontested lane. He had to fight for every little bit of farm, but now he is making it up towards the farm rate of the lifestyle of the Queen of Pain at 358 GPM, and just going to be able to blink on into the trees and TP, so continuously putting out that pressure is what he's been looking for.
Yep, and this is what they need to do. I'd like to take a look at the items for a second. If you check out this Lone Druid, he did not go for that Radiance, which you would normally see if you had like a safe lane farming Lone Druid. Instead, he's gone for a very fast Mjolnir, and this just means they want to push. And also, that goes so well with Nyx. If you're able to go and put on that static charge, the shield coming out from the Mjolnir on the Nyx, it makes him actually impossible to deal with. He just rage walk at you. You can't cast spells on him, and you can't attack him. Meanwhile, it seems like Shadow Demon killed a pup. Could you fill me in on that one? Because it makes absolutely no sense.
I mean, they pop off Disruption and the Ice Path, but honestly, I didn't catch all that either because you're right, it doesn't make any sense. If Puck was aware and of the opponent's positioning, there's really no reason for him to be dropped down there. He has too much escape, and they don't have enough lockdown to follow up, especially in the position he was in, which is right at the steps of the Radiant side in mid lane. So that is just really not the right positioning for Sharvik, and I guess he's just so used to playing in an advantageous position and playing aggressively therein that he's not really been able to respond to being kind of on the back foot this entire time. At the 21-minute mark, he expects to have a huge kill advantage, and from here, playing like it he does when he obviously does not, the exact opposite. So it's kind of good on paiN for punishing him through that.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, let's just take a look at like these supports. These supports are getting pretty rich. Shadow Demon is sitting at 1,900 gold. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see them just go and let him grab another 700 gold and grab a Necrobook, because that's something their team they really want. They already have Arcanes on the Jakiro, and with the Queen of Pain so close to a Hex, her mana supply is going to be fairly good. They don't really need another set of Arcane Boots. If they're able to grab a Necrobook with that, what is it, Drum Zoro from the Lifestealer, they're going to be able to completely mow down towers.
So only one tier 2 standing up on the top lane for 3D Clan, but in the meantime, Nexus is putting pressure out there and doing exactly what he's been doing this entire time. However, like you said, that Scythe will be coming up rapidly for the Queen of Pain. Actually has it picked up now, and if she blinks and hexes immediately, they can actually completely lock him down, but Nexus, knowing what's forthcoming, will just be able to TP on out of the trees. And from there, they actually have a kind of positional control of Roshan for the time being. There are wards up left and right. I mean, covering up the rune spawn, covering up their ancients farming. They are fully aware of this, and I think the paiN are easily going to be moving in to contest this here. But how do you think this fight's going to break down?
It really depends on the Darkseer wall. If they're able to get a good wall,
they're baiting it
really
completely.
sneaky.
Nice smoke. Really sneaky play. Unfortunately, Serva was auto-attacking at the time, so they're actually not going to be able to have it fully in their counter-initiation favor, but they do have this opportunity where they could go on in. Instead, Sharvik's taking too much damage, has to pop his phase early, and he's just going to get dropped down with a couple more right clicks. Queen of Pain doing a ton of damage. Serva dropping very low pops off that mechanism, but only to a little bit. The illusions everywhere. Serva going to get completely dropped down by his own allies' illusions. And from there, there's just too much damage coming up. And the northeastern end, the chase pursues. Dreg gets locked down immediately. And there's really not too much to say about that. They're going to be able to pursue onto Roshan. And that chase is just pretty much relentless with this Queen of Pain and that Scythe of Ice. Did you see who she sheeped in that circumstance?
I was not able to. I was not catching that. I was too busy going and looking at how much damage that Jakiro was doing because he was able to land all of his spells, and it just was great setup for that lightning proc to just go on and on and on and on. And if they're not able to contest the Sages at this point, I don't know what 3D is going to be able to do to get back in this game.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate for them in that kind of position there. They wanted to contest it, but even with a really powerful wall of replica, it just showed that they really didn't have the follow-up there. Puck was not able to get off any of his abilities, not even a simple silence. And actually, they do get the Scythe off on Anti-Mage to pick him up. So we saw him farming down there, but the Queen of Pain using that Scythe very effectively, chaining up the disables and locking him down, which he's just not tanky enough to be able to survive at this point in time. So he keeps on playing like that, but finally Pain has kind of been punishing him for it as well.
Yeah, okay. Shadow Demon went for a Force Staff, which is a really good item, and I can see the point of it, but it's not a Necro book, and I'm sad.
It's fine. I mean, they don't really need the push.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think it's good for sieging tier 3s, but as far as this kind of thing, what they just want to do right now is control the farm. And being mobile and being active, as long as they have good wards in the enemy's jungle, they can completely control the enemy's jungle and make sure that Nexus won't be able to further capitalize on that battle fury, even possibly preventing that Manta style 100%.
SNY coming out from Lifestealer, I don't know if that's good. I really have no idea. Like, is that... I understand. Okay, Yasha is a great item on Lifestealer. He goes and gives him, a lot of additional move speed, a lot of additional attack speed, and those are the things he scales off. He doesn't really need the strength. But the Sage, it helps him tank up a bit. It's actually more cost efficient than a Vanguard. And the MAME isn't irrelevant. And I suppose that, yeah, it does give you more attack speed, more move speed than a regular Yasha.
Yeah.
Or a Manta, for that matter. So
I think the intention...
Oh, Nexus is dead, by the way.
Oh, okay. That is very, very essential there. Finding him off from that pickoff, that ward showing really what's got to be happening here. That Radiant ward, keeping tabs on him. Anytime he farms up Ancients, anytime he farms up Jungle, that's where they want to be in pursuit of him. And they're just going to actually pop off an illusion to push for the tier 3 during his death. But yeah, it's definitely something that he wants to stay very active. He's picked up this vast mobility build. Actually, without phases active, is running at 432 MS. So really solving his movement problems allows him to stay on heroes like Puck and just completely annihilate them. The Blink Dagger kind of changing that, especially since Phase Shift is moving in towards that 3rd and 4th rank. But we do see them initiating, and they really just have to walk away.
Fast.
Yeah, he's very swift, and he's a very real threat. They can't just walk him shambling towards them and see him coming and just mildly stroll away like the classic zombie movie, I suppose. No, he is right in your face, jumping off the walls, and right there to bring you down really, really quickly. So he's a very real threat. And even though it's not really a carry item for this in terms of late game sense, for right now they just want the pressure this very second, and they're getting it. So the teamfight does break out. Dread taking a lot of damage, completely annihilated in only 3 hits. He's turning over to the Leshrac while Serva's taking a bunch of damage on the front line, and they're able to bring him down. Pada does get stunned up in the end, but infests on through to break out into full life, and the GG does come out as the racks have already fallen.
Yeah, I think there was nothing they could really do from this point. They just kind of fell too far behind. A couple early kills given to the Queen of Pain, a couple early kills given to that top lane. It just wasn't enough. The supports fell too far behind, weren't able to go and counter push, weren't able to be impactful in the mid game, and that just meant that Nexus had no time to go and get to that late game anti-mage.
Most definitely. So they really controlled the middle game specifically, and I guess the laning as well, and that was really, really well played to them. And the one thing to mention is this was on European servers. This was when paiN was playing at around 200 plus ping, maybe even closer to 300, who knows, but it's just they were playing with that kind of delay and still staying so coordinated, so active, and now we're going to go into the next game, based on the ruling, it's going to be on US servers, and they're going to have possibly even more advantage. So what does 3D Clan need to do to really change their mindset and get on into this next game?
I think they just need to show paiN a little bit more respect here. They need to understand that paiN isn't a team that's going to roll over once you start putting a little pressure on them, and just play accordingly. 3D, they have shown they are very competent players. They just went a little bit too aggressive, and they got punished for it. And when you get punished by a lineup that has a Lone Druid, a Queen of Pain, and a Nyx, there's no recovery. They're going to go and take your racks before you're able to recover. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This was game 1 of this best of 3 series, and paiN Gaming is going to be able to take down 3D Clan. So that was well played to them. They were very proactive in that, and there was, almost no question in my mind of who was coming out on top through most of those engagements. So 23-3, taking towers constantly. They really did a great job, and actually didn't notice that Jakira picked up the Vladimirs to continue that supporting spree. So that worked out. Even without a mechanism, they were just go on through. They could survive on through Dark Series wall, and from there wasn't that much they had to worry about with level 8 and 9 supports. They were just able to beat them down really quickly and take the win. So really smooth movement from them, and we'll see them in game 2 in just a few minutes. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is Blaze and Rainmaker.
Yep. Cheers, guys. GG's.